policy messages. First, to support the ECB efforts to tame inflation. And to do so, fiscal policy needs to be restrictive, as we recommended in the spring. This does not mean cutting back on investment, but it does mean, in particular, phasing out remaining energy support.
Well, thank you very much, and buenos dias. Thank you very much, and buenos dias a todos. In front of the cathedral was really inspiring, and I hope we will continue to be inspired in what we have to do. So we at the ECB is price stability. Our fight is against inflation. Our key tool under the circumstances is interest rates. But it will pick up in 24. We concur with the Commission that weaker growth does not mean recession. Looking at inflation, we are very keen to participate in the debate that will take place tomorrow. So I'm jump-starting a little bit because I will not be at the press conference tomorrow, and I'm not going to say much of anything, but coordination between fiscal and monetary policies that should not work at cross purposes is critically important for us to be efficient to establish price stability in a timely manner. So, on the fiscal side, next year, we agree with the Commission that it will be slightly restrictive and that member states should focus on reducing deficit and debt. And that makes it even more important to spend money in the right way. What Europe needs most is investment, public and private investment into the green and digital future. We all need more competitiveness. That is clearly identified by the ECB as one of the reasons why our growth is less in 23. And we very much welcome the agenda of the president of the Eurogroup.
That if this walk was easy for us, the walk towards keeping control of inflation and the walk to ensure sustainable growth is a long one and a difficult one, and I think all the countries of the euro area are aware of that. We at the ESM also consider that the euro area economy has shown resilience in the first half of the year, as also many households and businesses still have financial buffers to face the increase in costs. But we are now seeing weaker activity, not only in manufacturing, but also in services. Now, as the ESM is active on capital markets, we always listen very carefully what we hear there and what we see, and markets expect very weak growth next year. Some are even seeing that the risk of recession is increasing. Now, the consensus of markets in terms of growth for next year are lower than the numbers of the EU Commission and are quite in line with the numbers that the ECB has revealed yesterday. Some actors in the market are even more pessimistic. Coupled with tighter financing conditions, citizens and businesses will start feeling the pressure on incomes and profitability. Despite the resilience shown so far, risks to financial stability remain. At the ESM, we look closely at these risks and monitor market concerns in our daily contacts with investors. The full impact of these increase in interest rates and the weakening of the economy is still to be seen. Of course, we also have to be mindful of the impact of the most vulnerable in the face of this high inflation. Let me also underline something that has become obvious for many more during the summer, and that is that the climate risks are there to stay. It's not momentary, it's not happening once in a while. It is there to stay, and it has had huge impacts on many countries in Europe. Let me specifically highlight the sufferings because of the fires and the floodings in Greece. And this has, in fact, taken away the limelight that could have been set on the fact that one rating agency has now given investment grade to Greece. And as Greece is the country where the ESM has been most active, I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate Greece for this achievement. Now, there's a lot of homework to do, and that was highlighted this morning in the meeting. Let me first underline how important it is in this uncertain environment to stick to the consensus on fiscal policy formulated in the Eurogroup statement in July. And that statement is also extremely important because it ensures coherence with the monetary policy of the ECB. Today was again obviously a priority, even more so because at the end of this year, national credit lines will expire. We have received comments from the Italian minister about the process underway in the Italian parliament. We are in constant contact, and we hope that the procedure in parliament will help push the ratification that the other 19 countries are expecting. The most important is that the ESM can support and fulfill the important mandate for which it was created, ensure financial stability in the euro area. And if this amended treaty is not entering into force, unfortunately the backstop or the safety net that is the main feature of this new treaty will not be entering into force. Let me conclude by also saying that I continue my visits to all the members of the euro area, which are the members of the ESM. I have visited 15 countries, and in the next months, I'm going to finish the tour of all the countries, and I'd like to thank all the countries for their warm welcome and for the good exchanges of view that I have, in order to make sure that we will be able to use the full potential of the amended treaty.
And let's open the floor for questions. If I kindly ask you to give your name and the media you work for. And I start with Jorge, please.
Good morning, Jorge Valero with Bloomberg. A couple of questions for President Lagarde, please. The first one, did you receive questions on your rate decision during the Eurogroup discussion? What type of questions were they? And whether you saw around the table overall support to the rates decision taken yesterday? And secondly, on the EIB race, do you think that it is a high time for the EIB to have a female president? And whether the female candidates that the EIB race has, whether you have a preferred one, and if you will tell us, that would be great.
Just casual question along the way. Okay, on your first question, I was privileged to be given the floor early on by the president of the Eurogroup, immediately after the Commission. And I took the privilege as a moment when I could explain the reasons why we made that decision yesterday. And I explained word by word the key sentences and paragraphs that we have in our monetary policy statement, which I think was very well understood by ministers of finance around the table. So I did not receive, I speak under your control, Pascal, because you are obviously extremely attentive as they all speak, and I did not leave the room either, but I did not receive any question, let alone questioning of the monetary policy decision that we took yesterday. There was a lot of talk about competitiveness, about articulating fiscal and monetary policy in a consistent and efficient manner, but there was no question or questioning. As far as female being able to do the job, I think that for all those in position at the moment, we're all trying to demonstrate that, yes, a woman can actually do a job. I'll leave it there.
Thank you.
Hello, good morning. Here. Íñigo Caínzos, Cadena SER. Aquí.
Excuse me? Can you hear me? Francesca?
Francesca Basso, Corriere della Sera. You talked about the importance of the ratification of ESM, and you used the word hope. Did Minister Giorgetti reassure you about the process and give you a concrete time roadmap? Thank you.
So I've been a member of the Irish Parliament for now 16 years. And as a parliamentarian, I'm very much aware of the need to respect procedures and debates that take place in the parliaments of other countries and of other friends. For that very reason, it's not appropriate for me to comment on the detail and the nature of the ratification process that's underway within the Italian Parliament. It is a very important decision, and it is a matter for the Italian authorities and for parliamentarians in deciding their appropriate vote. But given my work as President of the Eurogroup, it's equally important that at this point I continue to stress that this is not just a debate about a safety net at a time of uncertainty for Italy. It's also about the other 19 member states as well. And it's also about the fact that in recent years we have seen how quick economic conditions can change, and we can see the value of certainty and support. And I absolutely appreciate the importance of this issue within the Italian Parliament and the importance of the debate that will take place in a number of weeks' time. But alongside that, need to emphasise that this treaty, a reformed and strengthened European stability mechanism, is a backstop and a form of additional support for every other member state too. And Minister Giorgetti is well aware of this European dimension to this important debate, and he updated us on his efforts, and we continue to trust and depend upon those efforts, delivering an outcome for all members of the euro area who ultimately have indicated that this is the support that will help in the future.
Thank you. I have Maria, please.
Thank you so much. Maria Tadeo from Bloomberg News. Madame Lagarde, we saw your video from the cathedral, by the way, going back to that visa that you had yesterday. But I wonder, in terms of the decision that you took, we have not talked about cuts at all. And today the market seems to believe you are at peak and that there will be cuts. I wonder, would you want to use this platform to say a message and say, will you say you mean it? You're not even thinking about cuts?
Thank you for pointing to one of the points that I made during the press conference yesterday. So I repeat, we have not decided, discussed, or even pronounced cuts. And duration is duration. In the statement that we published, we talk about the length and the duration. And we do specifically say, if maintained for long enough. Long enough is long enough. Can it be defined in terms of months, quarter, further? It will be for us to decide on a data-dependent basis at each projection meeting on the basis of our assessment. But we will get to 2% medium-term target. We are confident about it. We will be data-dependent. And as I said, level and length of time will matter significantly. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Jan, please.
Jan Struczewski from Reuters. You have all mentioned that there is agreement in the Eurogroup about the need for more restrictive fiscal policy. Does that mean that by October 15th, Commissioner, when you receive all the draft budgets, you will reject budgets that do not show lower budget deficits by 0.5% as per the rules? Thank you.
I think that we will discuss on the budget when we will receive the budget. I'm not anticipating anything from this point of view. What is clear is that we have a challenge ahead of us, which is to keep the commitment that the Eurogroup took already in July to have a substantially restrictive fiscal stance, also not to undermine the monetary policy. And on the other side, we are always committed and challenged by the need to invest. How do we find a balance on this? I think this will be very, very important also in the discussion on the coming draft budgets.
Thank you. We have a question over here.
Good morning, Íñigo Caínzos, Cadena Ser. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Santiago. Hope you enjoy these days. From Christine Lagarde, that if it's possible in the next months, or you announce new increases of the taxes, of the raises, or the announcement that you did yesterday is going to be the last one, about of the interest rates. It's possible a new increase or not?
I'll go back to the very, very, substantive paragraph that we agreed, and that is really encapsulating all the commitments that we make and all the determination that we have to bring inflation back to target in the medium term. And I'll read it to you. I know it's a tedious exercise, but it's one that really is the best. So based on our current assessment, that is the situation as it is, the expert views that we receive, and the analysis conducted by the Governing Council, we consider that the key ECB interest rates have reached levels that, maintained for a sufficiently long duration, will make a substantial contribution to the timely return of inflation to our target. So that gives you our vision now on the basis of all that. But we also say our future decisions will ensure that the key ECB interest rates will be set at sufficiently restrictive level for as long as necessary, and we will continue to be data-dependent, to adopt a data-dependent approach to determining the appropriate level and duration. So that's really where it is. And I cannot, add to that. It's perfectly framed to give you the position of the Governing Council of the ECB in that respect. But what I can assure you is that we will get there. We will tame inflation, and it will get back to 2% in a timely manner.
Thank you. Beatriz?
Thank you. Beatriz Navarro with La Vanguardia. It's a question for the President of the ECB, Mrs. Lagarde. Could you please comment on the recent decision to propose Claudia Buch as the chair of the ECB Banking Supervision Board? The European Parliament, as you know, has a veto power over this nomination, and they had expressed their preference for the other candidate, the Spanish Margarita Delgado, and many people in the Economic Committee Affairs are not very happy with the ECB proposal. And actually, some people have been accusing you of not sharing properly their position with the other members of the ECB board, and this letter famously sent in July. So I wonder if you could comment on these accusations of the record, but they've been in the air for a while. And also if you think that the European Parliament will confirm Mrs. Buch, or an institutional crash will be avoided. Thank you.
I would encourage all of us not to over-dramatize, number one. We're not talking about crash, we're not talking about accusation, and I thank you for the opportunity to clarify the process that we have adopted and followed and respected to the letter of the book of how things are done. So the process included identification of possible candidates. It was an open procedure, anybody could apply. We received 4 candidacies, 2 of which were retained by the selection committee. 2 of those candidates, you know them well, they include Maria Delgado and Claudia Buch. Both candidates were heard extensively. They file, academic records, expertise were reviewed, and those 2 were proposed for an opinion. So it's not a veto, but an opinion by the coordinators of the Econ Committee. And the views that were expressed were communicated to me by a letter issued by Irene Tagliani, who is the chair of the Econ Committee, and I have read the content of that letter to the Governing Council members. So for those who allege that I would not have shared the views of the president of the Econ Committee reflecting the views of the coordinators of the Econ Committee, they are unfortunately wrong, and I made the point of clarifying that in the press release that was issued after the election of Mrs. Bourg. Subsequent to that, a vote was taken at the table of the Governing Council, individual voting by secret ballot, excluding the non-voting members on the Governing Council. The vote was reviewed by a committee of scrutators that included 2 members of the Secretariat Directorate of the ECB and the oldest member, he would be upset if I said that, but the oldest member of the Governing Council, so that we have complete confidentiality and yet total integrity in the process, and a majority of the vote were in favor of Claudia Bourg. At this point in time, she will be heard by the whole Econ Committee this time, later, I think in September, and if she was confirmed, then it will be up to the European councils to confirm the nomination that the Governing Council made at a majority. That's how it works. Having said that, if Mrs. Bourg was confirmed by the European Council, we would very much welcome the collaboration that typically the Governing Council has with the Supervisory Board within the parameters of the Charter, which keeps us sufficiently separate so that there is not too much proximity. And I would like to salute on this occasion the elegance and the sportive attitude of both candidates. I spoke to both of them after the vote was taken. Margarita Delgado was setting standard of elegance and sport attitude towards the outcome.
Thank you. We have over there.
Thank you very much. Marco Bresolin, Stampa. I have a question for Director Gramegna on the ESM ratification. I think that after the ratification is completed by all member states, you would need some time for technical work in order to have the full reform and the backstop in place. My question is, how much time do you need after the ratification process for this technical work? And so in order to have the backstop in place by the 1st of January next year, when should the process end? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Obviously, we have not waited for the countries to ratify or to start to ratify the amended treaty to do the preparation work. So we have already done dry runs with the Single Resolution Fund, and we are now fine-tuning that so that you could say that operationally we are there, it's ready. We just have a few legal points which are, I would say, really formal to do once everyone has ratified. So that we cannot do before full ratification. So it's a matter of maybe days or weeks. So that's why I've said already in the past, we are ready in terms of operationalize, difficult word. We are ready for operation. Let's put it this way.
Thank you. Mark, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Mark Peperkorn, Volkskrant, Netherlands. I have 2 questions actually for the Commissioner. First is about the EIB. I will not ask you anything about the candidates, but about, let's say, the future course of the EIB. Until now, the EIB was rather risk avoiding because it took care of its AAA rating. Some say the EIB should be more risk taking. What is your position on this? And secondly, about the economic governance, the Stability and Growth Pact. You said you're confident that a decision will be, or a compromise will be reached the end of this year. How confident are you still about this? Because the idea was that there would be a proposal for compromise today to be discussed. It's not there. Time is running out, and many people are already saying it will be the Belgian presidency who have to solve this. Thanks.
Well, thank you for both questions. As far as the EIB is concerned, of course, I think that what happens in the world is bringing the EIB to inevitably have a stronger role. And this is what I think we need, we expect. This is what is happening for, in general, development banks at global, look at the process going on in the World Bank. At global level, this has nothing to do with putting at risk the AAA or the financial strength of the institution. This has something to do with how the world is evolving. And of course, Werner Hoyer made an excellent job in these years, and the new president will be called to continue this work in this even more challenging world environment. As far as the agreement on the fiscal rules is concerned, well, I'm confident by definition. But of course, I'm working, we are working. The Eurogroup is working, despite the fact that this is not exactly the Eurogroup task, and especially the ECOFIN is working. And let me again stress how important is the initiative that the Spanish presidency is taking. We were not, I think, supposed to take any formal decision during the Santiago meeting. I hope that during this meeting, both in formal moments that will happen tomorrow morning and in informal moments, we will make some progress to be used when we will have formal meetings.
Thank you. Tommaso, please.
Good afternoon, Tommaso Gallavotti in Kronos, Italy. I apologize for insisting on the ESM issue, but it is important for Italy. I wonder just if Minister Giorgetti said during the meeting that he is sure that the government will get a majority to ratify the reform or not, because his party, the Lega, will never vote that reform. So basically now they don't have a majority. Did Minister Giorgetti say that he will get a majority or not? Thank you.
So all of us appreciate the uncertainties involved in any political process, and it would take a very, very confident minister on any topic at the moment to assert any outcome with absolute certainty. What Minister Giorgetti did is describe to us the challenge of the political situation in Italy at the moment, which we all recognise, and pointed to his efforts with regard to this, which we all appreciate. We don't have a realistic expectation of anybody being able to predict a certain outcome. What we are assured by is his efforts, and what we're emphasising here today is, while this is a very important debate within Italy, the consequences of this debate stretch beyond Italy, and they talk about the strength of the safety net and the foundations that our common endeavours in the European Union will have in the face of potential economic risks in the future. That's why it's so valuable.
Thank you. I see one last question, please.
Hi, Nacho Alcon from El Confidencial. I have another question for President Lagarde regarding the Margarita Delgado-Claudia Buch race for this job. The vote in the Econ committee, they could reject Claudia Buch. There was all the coordinators were supporting Margarita Delgado. Was not just the president, was an unanimous position of the coordinators. So the possibility of a rejection is there. My question is, what happens if the Parliament next week, the Econ Committee reject your candidate nominated, and then also the plenary, because the plenary has also to vote, also reject this nomination? What happens then? Thank you.
You know what? We'll find out when we get there.
Thank you. And with this, we close this Eurogroup press conference. Many thanks to everyone, and have a lovely afternoon.